Chapter 1: The Writ. The writ arrived while Camille was finishing dinner. She heard the knock before her neighbor's dog did, which told her everything she needed to know about the visitor. Most people who came to her door knocked with intent, sometimes irritation, sometimes apology. This one knocked like someone who would rather not be doing it. She wiped her hands on the towel and opened the door. The envoy was young, well-dressed, and visibly relieved when he saw she was alone. He had brought a sealed letter, a smaller envelope with what was probably money, and with an expression of someone delivering an offer he privately believed she should refuse. "Miss Vey," he said, "the council sends their regards." "They send their regards by courier when they need something difficult," Camille said. "Come in." He did not come in, he stayed at the threshold. "It's a sensitive matter," he said. "Yes, I imagine it is." She held out her hand for the writ. He gave it to her. She broke the seal and read it where she stood, the envoy hovering behind as though the words might rearrange themselves if he watched closely enough. It took her less than a minute. She read it twice. The pact between the human kingdom and the demon realms was due for renewal. The renewal had stalled. The reason for the stall was, according to the writ, an internal matter within the demon court specifically, the inability of the two reigning sovereigns to agree on terms, owing to the ongoing dissolution of their marriage. The council had received, through diplomatic intermediaries, a request for a mediator. The council, in its wisdom, had selected her. Camille folded the writ, along its original creases. "They want me to mediate a divorce," she said. "Yes." "Between the two demon kings." "Yes." "And the pact renewal is contingent on it." The envoy shifted his weight. "It would be appreciated if a satisfactory resolution." He trailed off. "Yes, I'm sure it would." She looked at him for a moment. He was very young. He had not been told what to expect, which was a small kindness on the council's part or possibly an oversight. "When am I expected?" she asked. "Departure tomorrow at dawn. The escort will be waiting at the south gate." "And my retainer." He held out the second envelope. The amount inside, when she opened it, was generous, more generous than the council had been with her in years. She set the envelope on the table beside the door. "Tell the council I accept the assignment," she said. The envoy's relief was so immediate it was almost touching. He gave a short, formal bow and went down her steps quickly enough, showing his nervousness. Camille closed the door. She stood for a moment in her hallway, the writ still in her hand. The dinner she had been finishing was getting cold on the table behind her. Through the open kitchen window came the sound of the evening street vendors closing their stalls, someone calling for a child to come in. She had a small flat, 2 rooms and a galley kitchen, on a street where nobody noticed her coming or going. She had chosen it for exactly that reason. Her books filled one wall floor to ceiling. Her desk faced the window. On the desk lay 3 open files, all messy, all hers to finish because nobody else at the firm could. She returned to the kitchen and finished her dinner. Then she sat down at the desk and began writing letters. The first went to her landlord, with 3 months of rent paid in advance and instructions for what to do if she did not return. The second went to her assistant at the firm, with notes on the 3 open files and the name of the only other associate she trusted. The third went to Idony, who would be furious. "I've taken an assignment that may keep me away for some time," she wrote. "Don't believe whatever the council tells you about where I've gone, and don't let Ben believe it either. I'll write again when I can. If you don't hear from me in 3 months, you may begin being worried. I love you both." She sealed the letters. She poured herself a small measure of the brandy she kept for difficult evenings. She drank it slowly while she packed her case. She did not pack for a holiday. She packed for the courthouse on a hard morning: 3 changes of clothes, 2 pairs of shoes, her good pen, her better pen, a packet of cigarettes she did not smoke, but used sometimes for the way it changed the tempo of a room, the bound notebook she had been keeping since law school, and the small leather case in which she kept the documents the council was not aware of. She did not pack a weapon. She had never owned one. At dawn she was at the south gate. The escort consisted of 2 members of the council guard, an enchanted carriage, and a man in a long gray coat, who introduced himself only as the liaison and made it clear by his manner that he did not expect to interact with her much. The guards loaded her case. The liaison opened the carriage door. "Miss Vey," he said. "Liaison," she said. The carriage was small inside, with deep cushioned seats and a window that did not open. The liaison sat across from her. The guards rode outside. The horses, when they pulled away from the gate, made no sound on the cobbles, and Camille understood from this that the carriage was not going to be taking the usual road. They traveled for what felt like several hours and might have been only one. The window showed her countryside she did not recognize, then countryside she could not place, then a stretch of gray landscape with no features at all. The liaison did not speak. Camille opened her notebook on her knee and made notes on what she saw and what she planned to do once she arrived. The carriage stopped. The liaison opened the door. "We are here," he said. Camille stepped out. The gate of the demon court was taller than any gate she had ever seen and lower than she had been expecting. It was made of something that looked like dark stone and behaved more like dark water. She could see her reflection in it, slightly delayed. A man was waiting for her on the threshold. He was tall, thin, very neatly dressed, and looked at her with the expression of someone whose afternoon had just been revised. He had clearly been told to expect a senior counsel of considerable years and an intimidating reputation. He had received a woman in her mid-30s holding her own bags. "Miss Vey," he said, recovering. "Welcome, I am Lord Aelther, Master of the Outer Court. The Council of Realms has been expecting you." "Master Aelther," she said. She did not correct his use of Miss. Most people corrected it for her, eventually, without her having to say anything. The ones who did not were always interesting to her for the same reason. "You must be tired from your travel." "I'm not actually." "Of course." He gave a smooth bow that did not commit him to anything. "His Eminence, the Elder King, has indicated that he wishes to receive you personally before you are shown to your quarters, if you would follow me." "Now," she said. "Now." "Then by all means." She followed him through the gate. The corridor on the other side did not look like a corridor in a palace. It looked like a corridor in a very old and very well-kept library, lit by what might have been windows, except that they showed views Camille did not think were of any real place. Aelther walked at a measured pace. Camille kept up easily. Her shoes were good for walking. "His Eminence has been informed of your reputation," Aelther said as they walked. "Your work on the cauldron annulment was much discussed." "Was it?" "He is interested to meet you." "And the younger king." A brief pause in Aelther's stride, so small she almost missed it. "His Majesty the younger king will receive you tomorrow," he said. "Separately." "I see." It was felt, Aelther said carefully, that the introductions would be more productive that way. "Who made that decision?" He did not answer. She did not press. They walked for several minutes. The corridor turned twice, and twice the views through the knot windows changed. On the third turn, they came to a door of dark wood with no handle. Aelther stopped. He looked at her with what might, if she squinted, have been the first trace of curiosity. "He may not appear as you expect," he said. "In my experience," Camille said, "very few people do." He inclined his head. He placed his palm flat against the door, and the door opened inward without sound. Camille stepped through. The door closed behind her. She stopped a few paces inside, took the room in and waited. "Welcome to the Portal Library. Step through and let the magic begin." Make sure to like, subscribe and comment if you'd love more stories or have a request. New videos uploaded every Friday. The Demon King's Divorce Lawyer, a short story. Chapter 2, Two Kings. The room was a library. It was not a throne room and not a hall of audience. There were no dais, no guards, no demonstration of power. A fire burned in a stone hearth at one end. Bookshelves rose to a ceiling she could not quite see. A desk stood near the fire, and beside the desk, a single chair was angled toward another chair set just opposite it. The man in the second chair stood when she entered. "Mistress Vey," he said, "thank you for coming so promptly, please." He gestured to the chair across from his. Camille walked to it and sat down. He sat down after her. He did not look like a king. He looked like a man who had read more books than most living things would ever encounter, who had not slept in some time, and who was choosing his words carefully out of habit. He was tall, dark-haired, with eyes that did not match. One was pale gray, the other was nearly black. He wore plain dark clothing. There was no crown anywhere in the room. "You expected something else," he said. "I expected something," Camille said. "I had no fixed picture of what." "That is wise of you." He folded his hands in his lap. "I am called Vehez. Most who address me directly use the name. Eminence and Majesty and the rest are for the court and the records. In our work together, I would prefer Vehez." "Vehez then, you may call me Camille." "Thank you." A silence settled. It was not uncomfortable. He seemed to be in no hurry. "You have read the writ," Vehez said eventually. "Yes," Camille said. "Then you know the broad shape of what is being asked." "I know what your court has told the council. I do not yet know what you want from me." He looked at her for a moment. The mismatched eyes were unsettling, not for any sense of malice, but because they did not move quite in unison. "I will tell you what is true," Vehez said. "And then I will tell you what I would prefer were true. You may decide which to believe." "I will listen to both." "Very well." He leaned back slightly. "I have been married to my husband for a length of time that does not translate cleanly to your years. We met before either of our realms had taken its present shape, and we have not been separated since." "You met before your realms existed." "Yes, we were each what we were before we were what we are now. We were not always kings, in the sense you mean by the word. We became kings together. Each of our realms was small then. We built what they are now. We built it together. And now you want to dissolve the marriage." "I am being asked to." "By him." "By him." "You do not wish to dissolve it." Vehez was quiet for several seconds. "I wish to be married to my husband," he said. "I have wished this for a very long time. There was a period during which I believed he wished the same. That period has ended. He has not said so directly. He does not need to." "What has he said?" "He has said the realms have grown apart. He has said the joint court is no longer functioning. He has said we do not speak as we once did. He has said other things less kindly, which I will not repeat. The substance of all of it is that he is finished." "And you accept that?" "I accept that he believes himself to be done." She took no note. The notebook was in her bag at her feet. She would write later. "Vehez," she said, "I have a few practical questions before I leave. May I ask them now?" "Please." "Has either of you petitioned an external authority for the dissolution?" "No, we are the authority." "Have you executed any binding instruments separating the realms?" "None, nothing has been signed." "Are there third parties whose standing would be materially affected? Heirs, dependents, sworn vassals, anyone whose existence is contingent on the marriage?" He hesitated for a moment. "There are some," he said, "yes." "How many?" "More than I would care to count on the spot." "I will need a list." "You will have one by morning." "Thank you. One more question for today. Has either of you, to your knowledge, lied to the other about anything that bears on the dissolution?" A long pause. "Yes," Vehez said. "You?" "Yes." "Will you tell me what about?" "Not today." "Will you tell me eventually?" "Yes." "Then for today, that is enough." She stood, he stood with her. "Mistress Vey, Camille," he corrected himself with a small bow, "would you satisfy my curiosity?" "Of course." "I have been told that the council selected you because they did not believe you would survive the assignment." She did not respond. "I do not know whether they are correct," he said. But I will say to you what I would say to any guest in this court. You are safe here for as long as you are here on my errand. My husband would say the same, regardless of what he and I have said to each other. Whatever else is being negotiated in this matter, your safety is guaranteed. Thank you. I will see you again soon. Yes. She left the room. Aelther was waiting in the corridor. He looked at her once, briefly, with what she could now identify as ordinary professional curiosity, and asked nothing. I would like to see my quarters, she said. Of course, right this way. Her quarters were 3 rooms above a quiet courtyard. The windows looked out on a garden that should not have been able to grow in the absence of sun, but was growing perfectly well. There was a bedroom, a small sitting room, and a study. The study had a desk facing the window, a wall of empty shelves, and a fire already lit. Her case had arrived ahead of her. Someone had unpacked it, neatly into the wardrobe in the bedroom. Her notebook and pens had been placed on the desk in the study, in the order she would have arranged them herself. She stood for a moment in the doorway of the study, then she went to the desk and sat down. A knock came at the outer door a few minutes later. She rose, crossed the sitting room, and opened it. The woman on the other side was perhaps her own age, dressed in plain dark clothes that suggested she worked for the palace. She was holding a stack of folders bound in red ribbon. Mistress Vey, she said, I'm Sindra, I work in the archive. His Eminence asked that you be given access to the relevant records from the joint court. I have brought what I could carry. Camille, please, come in. Sindra came in. She set the folders on the table in the sitting room. The stack was substantial. This is the marriage agreement, she said, indicating the top folder and the addenda. There are 73 addenda. Most are administrative, several are not. Which several are not? I have marked them with green tabs. Camille looked at her properly for the first time. Sindra looked back without flinching. You are not what I expected either, Camille said. I rarely am. Most people expect the archivist to be older. Most people expect the lawyer to be older. Sounds like we will get along well. Camille laughed briefly. It surprised her, and from a small change in Sindra's face, it had surprised Sindra too. There is more, Sindra said, but it can wait until tomorrow. I assume you'd like an evening to read. Yes, thank you. His Majesty the Younger King will see you at the 9th hour tomorrow. I'll come for you at 8:30. You're escorting me. It was suggested that I do. By whom was it suggested? By me, Sindra inclined her head. Good evening, Camille. And just like that, she left. Camille closed the door, returned to the table, and looked at the stack of folders for a long moment without touching them. Then she sat down and opened the first one. She read for several hours. The younger king's chambers were not in the same wing. Sindra walked her there at the appointed hour. They went down a different corridor, lit differently, with the knot windows showing a sky that was almost recognizable. How long has it been, Camille asked, since they were last in the same room? 4 months, Sindra said. 4 months. By the joint court's calendar, which moves differently from yours, so approximately 4 months. Thank you. The door to the younger king's receiving chamber was not made of dark wood. It was glass, or something behaving like glass. Through it Camille could see the room beyond bright, sparsely furnished, modern in a way she had not expected anything in this court to be. A man stood at a window with his back to the door. Sindra knocked. Come, said the man at the window without turning. Sindra opened the door for Camille and stepped back without entering. Camille walked in alone. The door closed behind her. The man at the window turned. He was younger-looking than Vejas, though Camille had no faith in the appearance of age in this court. He was lean, sharp-featured, with a face that found amusement quickly. He wore clothing that would not have looked out of place at a contemporary law firm, dark trousers, an open-collared shirt, no jacket. His hair was cut short. He wore no crown either. Counsel, he said, come in. Camille is fine. Lurie. He did not gesture to a chair. He walked to a low table by the window where coffee had been laid out, in a small modern pot, and poured 2 cups. He handed her one. "You met him yesterday," Lurie said. "Yes." "He was charming, wasn't he?" "He was gracious." "I'm sure he would love to hear that." Lurie sipped his coffee. "What did he tell you?" "He told me he wishes to remain married. He told me he believes you wish to end it. He told me he has lied to you about something that he is not yet ready to share." Lurie paused, the cup halfway to his mouth. "He told you that," he said. "Yes." Out loud. "Yes." He set the cup down. "Well," he said. "Counsel Camille, I had several lines prepared for this meeting. Most of them were designed to take your measure. I think we can dispense with them. May I ask you a few questions instead?" "Of course." "Do you intend to try to save this marriage?" "No." "Do you intend to end it?" "No." "What do you intend to do?" "I intend to find out what the two of you actually disagree about, and produce a plan that addresses it. Whether the marriage continues is for the two of you to determine. My job is to give you the context that lets you decide cleanly. That is not how my husband will have presented this to you." "It is not. I did not ask him to." Larry looked at her for a long moment. "You may turn out to be useful," he said. "I am paid to be." He laughed. It was a short, dry laugh, and it changed his face briefly into something less guarded. "What do you need from me?" he said. "The same things I asked him. Whether you have petitioned an external authority, whether you have executed any separating documents, whether there are dependents whose standing is contingent on the marriage, whether you have lied to him about anything that would impact your separation." "No, no, yes, many, yes." "You'll tell me what you lied about." "Eventually." "And the dependents." "You will have a list." "Thank you." "Anything else?" "One thing, I would like the two of you in the same room tomorrow. With me, briefly, a working session. I want to see you talk to each other and we need to come up with goals." Larry's mouth pulled into something that was not quite a smile. "He won't like that." "I am aware." "He'll come anyway, though." "Is that so?" "He always does." Larry lifted his cup again. "Tomorrow at the 10th hour, the long room, I'll send Sindra to fetch you." "Thank you." She set down her cup, untouched, and turned for the door. "Camille." She stopped. "He told me," Larry said, "that the council selected you because they did not believe you would survive. He told me the night before you arrived." The long room was longer than it needed to be, Camille thought, chuckling to herself. A table ran most of its length. There were 3 chairs at one end, 2 on one side, one opposite. Vejas was already seated when Camille entered. Lurie arrived a few minutes later, late enough to make a statement. He sat down across from Vejas without speaking to him. Camille took the 3rd chair and opened her notebook. "Thank you both for coming," she said. Neither of them answered. Neither was looking at the other. "I'd like us to discuss the joint accounts of the realms," she said. "The administrative ones. I have a question about the southern levies." Vejas blinked once. "The southern levies," he said. "Yes." "That is an extraordinarily minor matter." "I know." Lurie's eyes shifted to her briefly, and then to the wall. "Very well," Vejas said. She asked them about the southern levies. It took 20 minutes. The substance of the discussion was tax collection schedules in a region whose name she could not have placed on a map at the start of the morning. Neither king cared about the southern levies. Both knew the answer to the question she was asking. They answered her in turn, briefly, without making eye contact. They had been managing a kingdom together for longer than humans had been keeping records. She watched them work. She watched how Vejas waited for Lurie to finish before he spoke, even when Lurie was wrong. She watched how Lurie did not correct him afterward. She watched how each addressed her, not the other. She watched how each adjusted his cadence to match the others so that the discussion proceeded without friction. "Thank you," she said when the southern levies were settled. "That is what I needed for today." "That is all," Vejas said. "That is all. You did not ask us about the dissolution." "No, I will at a later time." Larry looked at her properly for the first time since he had sat down. "You wanted to see if we could still work together," he said as a matter of fact. "Yes. And you can still work well together." She closed the notebook and stood. "I'll see you both tomorrow," she said. She left them at the table. She did not look back as she made her way out. Back in her study, the fire still burned. Sindra had left a fresh stack of folders on the table by the door and a brief note, green tabs for the difficult ones. Camille sat down at the desk. She opened her notebook to a clean page and wrote across the top her plans for the next meeting. Then she continued to review the files. Chapter 3: The Long Room. Camille spent the night with the files. By the time the lamp had burned down twice, and she had refilled it once, she had what she needed. She began to notice a pattern. The pattern was 200 years old. She laid it out on the floor of her sitting room because the desk was not large enough. Court schedules in one column, household orders in another, staff appointments in a third, ledger separations in a fourth. The dates ran down the page. She had filled 4 pages by the time the lamp burned down again. Every column told the same story. Every year, for 200 years, one more thing that had once been shared had been quietly made separately. None of the changes were dramatic. Each one had a clerk's name and a date and a small, clean justification. Together, they were not a series of administrative refinements. Rather, they were a slow dismantling. She did not sleep that night. At 7, she made coffee. At 8, Sindra arrived with a tray of bread and fruit she did not want and accepted anyway. Sindra looked at the floor of the sitting room and said nothing. "I'll need the original requisition orders," Camille said. "For each of these, the ones that bear the signature of the king who approved them." "All of them." "All of them." "That will be a large quantity of paper." "I know." "They will be ready in the long room. I'll have them sent ahead." "Thank you." Sindra paused at the door. "You're going to use them today," she said. "Yes." "Both kings will be there." "Yes." "I will be just outside, if you need anything." "Thank you, Sindra." The long room had been arranged differently. The table was the same. The chairs were the same. But the orders had been stacked at her place, 6 tall stacks bound in different colored ribbons, and someone, Sindra, surely, had thought to leave a clean glass of water at each king's place and a closed door behind each entrance, so that neither king would see the records before he sat down. Vejas arrived first, as he had the day before. Luri arrived 4 minutes after the hour. "Thank you both for coming," she said. "I want to begin with a question. I'd like both of you to answer it before I show you anything." "Please," Vejas said. "When did the two of you stop sharing a household?" Neither king spoke. "I don't mean in spirit," Camille said. "I mean in fact, separate schedules, separate chambers, separate staff, separate dinners, when?" Luri cleared his throat. "Recently," he said. "Define recently." "In the last century." Vejas. "Yes." "Same question." "I would have said the same." "You would both be wrong." She lifted the first stack of orders and set it in the middle of the table. 207 years ago, she said, the household schedules were divided. The order was approved by Vejas. The proposal was made by Luri. Luri's mouth opened slightly and closed. 198 years ago, the council chambers were divided into 2 sitting rooms. Order approved by Luri. Proposal made by Vejas. She lifted the second stack. 170 years ago, the joint dinners on the 15th of each month were moved to the king who happened to be hosting that particular delegation. Order approved by Vejas. proposal made by Lurie. Camille, Lurie began. I'm not finished. 140 years ago, the private chambers were separated into two suites with a connecting corridor. Order approved by Lurie, proposal made by Vejas. I have 43 more of these. Would you like me to read them, or have I made the point? Neither king answered. I'm going to ask one question, Camille said. Which of you began this? A long silence. I did, Lurie said. The household schedules, that was the first thing it seems. No, Vejas said. Vejas, the order is in front of you. The proposal is in my hand. I approved the first division. You only proposed it because I had already begun pulling away. You looked exhausted. I looked exhausted because I was worried about you. I was worried about you because you had begun to look as though sitting through joint council was tiring you. I thought you needed time apart from the table. I thought if I gave you that time, you would come back. I asked for the schedules to be divided because you came out of every joint session looking like you had been crushed. I thought I was not pulling my weight. I was never disappointed with any of your decisions. You looked like you were, then what were you worried about? The court, the ministers, the endless small wars about precedents. I worried because I did not want you to be affected by them. You hated those fights. You always hated them. I thought if I took care of things, you could be the king who built things. You are the better ruler, you always have been. I am not the better ruler. You taught me everything I know. I taught you nothing, you taught me. Vejas, we are not having this back and forth again. Camille did not move. The chambers, she said quietly. Larry's eyes closed for a moment. You approved separate chambers, he said to his husband, because I always came back late. I came back late because you looked relieved every time I left. I did not look relieved. You looked relieved. I looked unburdened. There is a difference. I was unburdened because for one evening I would not have to perform for you. Perform what? That I was content. Lurie went very still. You were not happy, he said. I have not been content for a very long time. How long are we talking about? I do not want to count. How long, Vejas? Long enough that the answer would distress you. Tell me anyway. 2,000 years, perhaps a little more. Lurie set both hands flat on the table. You have been unhappy for 2,000 years, and you did not tell me. I did not want you to feel responsible. I was married to you, I was already responsible. I did not want you to leave. Why would I have left? Because I would have. If I had been you and you had been me, I would have, out of mercy. You think I'm capable of leaving you out of mercy? I think you are capable of leaving me for any reason if you believed it was the right thing to do. You have been trying to leave me for a century by my count, and you probably thought of it as a kindness. You and I are not so different in this. I have been managing your happiness. You have been managing mine. We have been doing it without consulting each other. How long have you been trying to leave? Vejas said. 140 years, Lurie said, since the chambers were separated. Why? Because you would have been a greater king without me. Because you have spent a third of your reign managing my temper and my politics, and the wars I start by walking into rooms badly. Because I have come to think, Vejas, please listen, that I have been a weight you have carried out of love, and that I owe it to you to lift it off you while there is still time for you to be what you would have been without me. You think I would have been more without you? Yes. You are wrong. I am not. You are, I would have been less. I am only what I am because of what we built. You think you have been a deadweight. You have been the only reason any of it has been worth building. I have been miserable for 2,000 years not because of you, but because of the distance I let grow between us, which I let grow because I thought you wanted it. I wanted it because I thought you needed it. Then we are both fools. Yes. They sat in silence for a while. Camille slid a single piece of paper across the table to the middle, where both of them could see it. There is one more thing, she said, and then I am going to leave the room. They looked at the paper. This is the requisition order for the original division of the household schedules, she said. 207 years ago. The proposal carries Lurie's seal. The approval carries Vehez's. The drafting clerk's name appears here. She pointed. The same clerk's name appears on 11 of the next 15 separations. He was promoted 4 years after the first division by a minister who is named here. That minister's faction held the joint council for the better part of the following century. The two of you have been managing each other's feelings, yes. You have also been managed. Neither king touched the page. I'm not telling you this to absolve you of anything, Camille said. You walked through every door, but someone has been holding the doors open. I will name them in the final assessment document if you want them named. That is for you to decide. I am leaving the room now. I'll come back in an hour. She stood, she picked up her notebook and left it closed under her arm. She did not look at either of them as she left. Sindra was in the corridor. There is a letter, Sindra said. It came an hour ago. I held it until you came out. From Idani. Yes. Camille took it. She walked to the same window seat as the day before and sat down. Camille. I am writing this in haste because the clerk came back this morning, 2 days early, with a more senior person. I told them you had not given permission for them to enter your office, and they told me my permission was not required. They took 3 boxes. I did not know what was in 2 of them. The third was your case files from the last 6 years. Anak told me afterward that the council has formally redesignated your position. There is a notice in the Gazette. I have enclosed it. Ben says I should stop writing to you. He is afraid of what the council is planning. I think the council would prefer to convince everyone that you are gone before you have a chance come back. Write to me when you can. I am keeping the door of your office locked from the inside, with myself in it, every day until 5. They have not yet sent anyone to physically remove me. I will let you know when they do. I love you, so does Ben in his own way. I, Denise. The Gazette clipping was folded inside the letter. She held the letter for a long moment, looking out the window at the night sky. Then she put the letter in her coat pocket, returned to the corridor, and went back to the long room. She did not knock. She opened the door and went in. Vehez was sitting where she had left him. Lurie was sitting closer to him than he had been. Not next to him, but closer. The chair he had moved at some point in the last hour was angled slightly toward his husband's, so that they were no longer across the table but along it. Neither of them had touched the requisition order. It lay where she had left it. They both looked up when she came in. Camille, Vehez said. I'm going to ask one more question, she said. And then I am going to make a recommendation, and you are going to tell me whether I should draft it. The question is this. Do you want to remain married to each other? Yes, Vehez said. Yes, Lurie said. Then I am going to draft a legal addendum that we can put into detail the legal responsibility of each one of you. You will have 2 formal households, 2 courts, 2 staffs, 2 ledgers, all of which already exist in practice. I will draft a joint agreement for the things you still do together, which is most things. The pact with my kingdom will be folded into the joint document as a separate clause. You will still be married. How does that sound? Vehez did not look at her. He was looking at his husband. Lurie, he said. Yes, Lurie said. I'll have a first draft for you in 3 days. Thank you, Vehez said. There is one more matter, Camille said. The names on the requisition orders. I will not write them in my report without your permission. I would recommend you ask Sindra to begin a separate report. What you do with the report afterward is for you to decide. There are people in this court who have benefited from your distance from one another. I would not advise letting them learn about the separation before you have decided how to handle them. Sindra has already begun the report, Lurie said quietly. Of course she has. She started it the night you arrived. Of course she did. Camille closed her notebook. I'll see you both in 3 days. She left them in the long room. She did not look back. As the door closed behind her, She heard the small sound of one chair being moved, and then the small sound of liquid being poured into two glasses, and then nothing. Sindra was waiting in the corridor. 3 days, Camille said. I'll need a quiet room and the rest of the archive. You'll have both. They walked back toward Camille's quarters in step. Sindra, Camille said. Yes. The report on the ministers. It's nearly complete. When did you start it? The afternoon you arrived, after you met Vejas. He looked when he came out of the meeting with you. I thought it was finally time. You've been waiting for someone like me. Yes. How long? Longer than I would care to admit. Camille laughed once briefly. Sindra's face did not change, but her eyes did. They reached Camille's door. The first cart of additional records was already waiting. I'll bring dinner up later, Sindra said. You're not going to come down, right? No. As I thought. Thank you. She went inside. She closed the door behind her. Ideni's letter was still in her pocket. She took it out, set it on the desk, smoothed it flat, and sat down to begin drafting. I hope you are enjoying this story so far. Next week we will do another transmigration story, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Chapter 4, The Document. The next 3 days passed in the rhythm Camille kept best. Sindra brought records in the morning and again at midday, and once more in the late afternoon. Camille worked at the desk facing the window, with the carts of archive material arranged around her on the floor and on every surface that would hold them. She ate the meals Sindra brought because Sindra brought them, not because she remembered to want food. She slept 4 hours each night and woke before the lamp had fully gone out. The report was taking shape. There were 3 sections. The first set out the present state of the 2 realms. The second established the 2 distinct households in formal terms. The third was the joint conditions pertaining to the treaty. The pact renewal details sat as a single clause near the end. She wrote to Ideni each night. The letters were short. She did not have it in her to be lyrical, and Ideni would not have believed her if she had tried. One of them read, Stop locking yourself in. Let them have the room. Anik can hold the rest. I'm writing again soon with something to ask you. She signed it and gave it to Sindra in the morning. On the 3rd afternoon, Sindra came in with a sealed folder under her arm and set it on the corner of the desk. The minister reports, she said. The kings have it now. Thank you. You don't want to read it. No. Sindra left. Camille worked into the evening. The draft was finished by the time the lamp had burned down for the last time. The long room was arranged the way it had been on the first day. Both kings were there when Camille arrived. The draft was in front of each of them. They had read it through once already, she could tell. She sat down and opened her notebook to a blank page. I'd like to go through it section by section, she said. Tell me where you would like changes. They went through it. The first section took half an hour. There were small corrections of fact, dates, account names, the title of a junior office that had been renamed 40 years ago and that Camille had not known to update. Lurie caught most of these. Neither of them raised an objection to the substance. The second section took longer. Camille, Lurie said. Yes. The phrase separate households. Yes. Does it have to be separate? Vejas looked up. Does it have to be separate? Lurie said again. The word. It does, Camille said. Pretending otherwise is how you got here. The room was quiet. Distinct, Vejas said. Lurie looked at him. Distinct households, Vejas said, if the word matters. It matters. Then distinct. Camille made the change in her copy and noted it for the clean draft. Thank you, she said. They moved on. The third section took the least time of all. Neither king objected. Vejas read it twice. Lurie read it once and set it aside. Camille brought out the final copies. She had three, one for each king's archive and one for the joint archive. Each was bound in plain dark leather. Each carried her seal on the inside cover. You'll each sign 3 times, she said. Once on your household section, once on the joint section, once on the pact renewal clause. She passed the first copy to Vehez, who signed without ceremony. He passed it to Lurie, who signed without looking up. The second copy went the other direction. The third copy came to Camille last, and she signed it as mediator witness in the small space below their seals. She closed the third copy and set it on the table between them. It is done, she said. Vehez looked at his husband. Lurie, he said. Yes. Thank you. Yes. They both turned to Camille. Thank you, Camille, Vehez said. Thank you, Lurie said. He did not say more. The way he said it was enough. Camille gathered her papers, bowed lightly to both of them, and left the long room. Sindra was in the corridor. There is a room I would like to show you later today, she said. If you have a moment. I'll have some time. They walked. It was a shorter walk than Camille expected. The room was on the same floor as her quarters, 3 doors down. Sindra opened the door and stepped aside. The room was a working office. A desk faced the window. A wall of shelves stood ready to be filled. A small fire burned in a stone hearth on the side wall. There was a second chair across from the desk, set at the angle of a chair meant for receiving people. Vehez and Lurie were already inside. They were standing, not sitting. Camille, Vehez said. Yes. This is an offer. The two of us would like you to remain in this court, not as a temporary mediator, in a permanent capacity. What exactly would that entail? First Council of Accord. She did not respond immediately. The role does not yet exist, Lurie said. We are creating it. The title was Sindra's idea. The role itself is something we have shaped over the last 3 days, on the assumption that you might accept it. Tell me what it involves. You would mediate cross-realm agreements. You would review every agreement that passes between the 2 courts. You would hold independent access to the joint archive. You would report to the joint committee itself rather than to either of us. If we disagree, you would be the third voice. If we agree without consulting you, you would be empowered to object. Empowered how? Empowered to block, with cause. Camille was quiet for a moment. You're giving me veto authority over the 2 of you. With cause, Vehez said. That is a great deal of authority. It is the authority the role requires, Lurie said. We are not interested in offering you a role that does not have it. We have spent 200 years being managed by people who were less qualified than you. We would rather be managed, when we need to be managed, by someone who is as honest as you. She looked at both of them. I accept, she said. Thank you, Vehez said. There will be paperwork, Lurie said. There always is. Sindra has drafted it. Of course she has. That evening, she wrote the letter she had been preparing to write for 3 days. Idani. I am not coming back. I want to tell you this plainly so that you do not spend any more days waiting for me to come back. The council has redesignated me, and they have done it because they did not believe I would survive this work. I have survived it. I am being offered a role here that has been built around what I am actually good at, which is a thing the council never bothered to do, and which I no longer expect them to do. I am writing this to tell you the door is open. I am not asking you to walk through it. I am telling you it is open, and that I have walked through it, and that there is room here for the kind of work we have been trying to do in the human kingdom, and could do well here. The court is not what either of us was raised to imagine. It is closer to what we wanted more than anything we have found at home. Bring Ben, bring whoever else wants to come. No hard feelings if you do not want to come, but write to me anyway. I will write to you regardless of what you decide. I love you. Camille. She sealed it. She gave it to Sindra in the morning. The carriage arrived 4 months later. Camille was at her desk when Sindra came to the door. Sindra did not say anything. She did not need to. Camille set down her pen, put on her coat, and walked with her to the gate. The night sky was the same as it had been the day Camille had arrived. The gate behaved the same way. Camille walked through the gate. She crossed the threshold she had crossed alone, and she stood on the other side of it for the first time with nervous anticipation. The carriage door opened. Idni stepped down first, with her own case in her hand. She set it on the cobbles and looked at Camille for a long moment without speaking, the way the two of them had always done when they had not seen each other in some time. Ben came down after her, carrying 2 more luggages. He nodded to Camille. Camille nodded back. A second woman came down behind Ben. Camille recognized her, Anik, from the firm, who had been the only other associate Camille had trusted. Anik had a smaller suitcase and the same direct expression she always held. A third woman followed. Camille did not know her by sight. Idni introduced her with one word, Myra. Idni looked past Camille to the gate. "That is it," she said. "That is it." Camille picked up Idni's case herself. Ben smiled briefly and let her. The 4 of them, Idni, Ben, Anik, Myra, followed Camille through the gate. Sindra was waiting on the other side. Quote of the week: "Those who wish well to their friends for their sake are most truly friends." Aristotle. Thank you for listening to The Demon King's Divorce Lawyer. Hope you enjoyed this story. If you want to hear more, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. New stories are uploaded every Friday.